Calling the meeting to order is Charmaine Postal, the chair of the meeting. Um, First, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone and going to this before we end our call. I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. But at this time, we ask that the secretary please call the roll.
Um, we're letting some people in, so give us 1 second.
Absolutely. It's 10:01, so do we want to just hang tight for a few minutes while we let people in and give people the opportunity to come in?
I think we had a number of people come in, and I think we could go ahead and get started with the roll call.
Perfect.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, adoptive family, Jessica Pagan. Best Foot Forward, Debbie Ellman.
Debbie, I saw her.
Yeah. I'm going to mark her yes.
I see you there, Debbie. Can you hear us? I don't think,
Okay, and also Best Foot Forward.
but there's,
Hi, sorry, my speakers weren't working, but I just fixed it. Go me. Hi,
Okay.
everybody.
Hi, Debbie. I'm calling roll. Best Foot Forward, Debbie Ellman.
Present online.
Okay, and Best Foot Forward, Karen Spagnardi, our new.
That's hi,
All.
present online.
Good morning, welcome.
welcome, first meeting.
Thank you.
Black Chamber of Commerce, Cassandra Oliver. Card at FAU, Sabrina DeGoges.
Present online.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Card at FAU, Jack Scott. Coalition for Black Student Achievement, Dr. Deborah Robinson.
Present online.
Thank you. Coalition for Black Student Achievement, Jacqueline Calloway. Compass, Amanda Canetti.
Present.
Thank you. Compass, Rex Barnes. Connect to Greatness, Dr. Cassandra Corbin Thaddeus. Connect to Greatness, Andre Thaddeus. District DSC Advisory Committee, Kimberly Spire O.
Present online. Good morning.
Thank you. District DSC Advisory Committee, Michelle Beatty.
Present online.
Division of Blind Services, Cesar Vigo.
Present online. Good morning.
Economic Council of Palm Beach County, Craig McKenzie. El Sol Jupiter, Suzanne Whitbeck. Florida Hispanic American Chamber of Commerce, Juan Pagan. Present. Florida Hispanic American Chamber of Commerce, Evelyn Vargas. For the Children, Reggie Durandis. Gold Coast Down Syndrome, Sue Davis Killian.
Present.
Guatemalan Maya Center, Mariana Blanco. Guatemalan Mayan Center, we have a new alternate, Myra Cardenas. Okay. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Maria Antunia. Hispanic Education Coalition, Hector Pedra. NAACP, Diedrich Strawn. Palm Beach County Council of PTAs, Charmaine Postal.
Present online.
Palm Beach County Council of PTAs, Marcus Brown.
Present online. Good morning.
Palm Beach County Human Rights Council, Emmy Kinney. Tri-City Education Committee, Eddie Rhodes. Morning. Tri-City Education Committee, Mary Evans.
Just let the record show that, Eddie, you just got to turn your, Mr. Rhodes, your mic on when you respond. So Mr. Rhodes is present.
Present, Ms. Rose, present. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
thank you. Urban League of Palm Beach County, Terrence Reed.
Terrence Reed, present, online.
Present, okay. Volunteer Association of America, Widlin Pierre. Volunteer Association of America, Carlene Paul. And Classroom Teachers Association, Gordon Longhofer. And back to Adoptive Family, Jessica Pagan.
You're present online.
Thank you. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have a quorum.
All right.
Awesome. First, I want to take the time to again recognize Sue Hosclaw. This is her last DDEC meeting. So if you're online, just show up your reactions, just hand claps and applauding her for a job well done at serving as our secretary and everything else.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Oswald.
It's been a pleasure working with everybody. So maybe I'll check out a couple meetings in the future, but thank you. It's been fun.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for all that you're doing.
Yes.
At this time, we'll move right on to the approval of the October minutes. The approval of the minutes have been distributed online via your calendar invites. Do I have any questions at this time about minutes? And they're also online. And the floor is open to entertain a motion.
Move to approve the necessary corrections.
Motion to approve the minutes with no.
There's a motion in the
corrections.
room by Mr. Rhodes.
Second.
Yep.
Oh, you
Motion
turned
by
it.
Mr. Rhodes.
They heard you.
Second by Kimberly.
You just turned it off, though.
Zero.
There you go.
Any discussions? All in favor? Motion carries. The minutes for the October minutes are approved. Moving right along the agenda to public comments. Just a reminder, public speakers, you have 2 minutes to speak. Is there any public speakers in the room at this time, Mr. Oswald?
There is not.
Are there any public comments online? Hearing none, we will move right on the agenda with the update for the DDEC Ad Hoc Subcommittee. Ms. Sue, I believe Sue Davis.
Hi, yeah, thank you. We just
Committee
had,
to-
Oh.
Perfect.
yeah, great, hi. Let me pull up our minutes. We just finished our second meeting a few minutes ago. And basically, what we did in our first meeting, we kind of went over had a lot of big discussion because it's a really big subject that we could be talking about when we're talking about teacher equity and everything. This committee, we solidified what our goal was, which our goal is to present school district leadership with a I'm looking at the wrong one. To present school district leadership with strategies to ensure that students have teachers with the skills to address their students' academic and emotional needs at hard-to-staff schools. The recommendations will include the obstacles along with the corresponding recommended solutions. We have a follow-on goal that we figured is important, but we had to have something that we can handle in a reasonable amount of time. The follow-on goal would be the same goal, but for students with more challenges within all schools. So the main goal is to address the inequity amongst teacher skills between, say, high-performing schools and hard-to-staff schools. And the secondary goal would be looking at how teachers are assigned within schools, within the different classes. So that, and we, district staff has provided us a bunch of data that we requested at our first meeting that we will be looking at and discussing at our next meeting. And that's it.
Questions for the subcommittee? Chairperson, we have a hand raised. Dr. Robinson?
Yeah, I just wanted to add the comment that we agreed that we may well tweak that goal as we work.
Correct, Ms. Davis?
Have any questions
Yes.
at this time?
Yes.
Doesn't look like any other questions in the room. Ms. Postal?
I did see I saw Dr. Robinson hand up. Dr. Robinson, did you still have a question?
She made her comment.
I already addressed it, yeah.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? At this time, we'll move right on to the update from the Chief of Equity and Wellness, new board members, and school safety video.
So again, good morning, everyone. Also, I do want to acknowledge and welcome Mr. Ferguson, who is online, school board member, as well as in the room. We also have Ms. Simmons, Manager of Equity and Access, and Mr. Jean Sylvie, who is also here, who you met last time. Again, Mr. Ferguson, who he was on, then came back in, and then also Mr. Longhofer from CTA, who also just recently signed on. I'm gonna first, congratulations to our new school board members who are now been sworn in, had their first meeting on Tuesday. So Mr. Matthew J. Lane for District 1. We have Virginia Savietto for District 2. And we have Ms. Gloria Branch for District 5. So again, welcome to those new board members. We had a nice swearing-in ceremony at that on Tuesday. So looking forward to working with those new board members. I'm just going to switch over to my next topic. Also, at our first school board meeting, we had a presentation, if I can find it, me and my tabs. We had we had a presentation by Cambridge. So one of the things that we often talk about in this particular committee is about access to accelerated coursework and how students are doing on that accelerated coursework. So Cambridge recognized the school district of Palm Beach County we've gotten a recognition in the past for opening up access, performance. So I want to share with you this presentation from last week's board meeting and the comments that were shared by Cambridge who came to that meeting. So hopefully you can all see this. Actually, Jonathan, I don't know if you can hear me, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the volume right. Can I share this link with you, or actually? I'm sorry, 1 second. John, I'm going to Google chat it to you. And one additional one. Okay, you should have it now. You have it, Jonathan? I sent you in a Google chat. The one prior to that, before this one. There's one before that. What did I send you? Hang on, I'm sorry. Let me redo this. Sorry, it's a YouTube. Let's see if this comes through now. There it is. Check your Google chat again. Jonathan, go to 34 minutes, 15 seconds. Again, this is a presentation from Cambridge.
Can all go down to the floor.
Good evening, Chair Brill, Vice Chair Andrews, board members, Superintendent Burke, staff, and community members. And this evening, we have one recognition on the agenda. Earlier this year, the School District of Palm Beach County was named a model for equity and excellence in Cambridge implementation. Since the partnership between the district and Cambridge began in 2008, the district has been exemplary in its commitment to providing equitable access to high-quality education for all students. As a nod to this excellent work, we received the District of the Year Award from Cambridge twice in the past 6 years. Now, in 2024, Cambridge wanted to provide a unique recognition for the district's dedication to increasing access to Cambridge programs and achieving extraordinary results in the process. Since the partnership began, the district has demonstrated remarkable growth and success. We have expanded the implementation of Cambridge's aligned multi-year curriculum in 57 of our schools. Our well-established feeder patterns are engaging more students than ever, providing them the opportunity to get involved and succeed with Cambridge's challenging coursework. Cambridge has marveled at the district's thoughtful and innovative plan to open access to Cambridge programs over the last 16 years. The district is a wonderful example of what a school district and community can accomplish with a unity of purpose sustained over time. We are proud to partner with Cambridge and look forward to continuing to empower students and transform lives through education. We have representatives here from Cambridge to present the plaque in recognition of the district as a model for equity and excellence in Cambridge implementation. Everyone please welcome Dr. Matthew Kay, Head of Policy, Accountability, and Partnerships, and Mr. Jeremy Riggio, Senior School Implementation Manager, North America Region. And Mr. Riggio would like to say a few words.
Thank you. It really is a pleasure. I get to work with all your schools. So as she said, every year, Cambridge recognizes 3 U.S. school districts as Cambridge Districts of the Year Award recipients. This award is typically based on 3 years worth of key metrics. But when we looked at the data this year, we stopped and said, okay, we need to look a little bit differently, because when we look over time and we don't restrict it to 3 years, we found that Palm Beach County leads by far in a number of areas. One, commitment to serving all students. And I emphasize the all. It's kind of like the mission and vision there says each student on it. That really is important. It's not looking at students as this one group of kids who progresses from kindergarten to first grade. It's each individual kid in that group and doing what's right for them. And Palm Beach County is by far leading in that when it comes to the Cambridge pathway. Achieving academic excellence while providing equity and access to high quality education. That's what the name of the game is. The Model for Equity and Excellence in Cambridge Implementation Award is a first-time award. We've never given it before, but we decided that this was a necessary recognition for really just excellence over time. And so this is for continuous commitment to providing all students with access to high-quality education via the Cambridge pathway. It means that nearly every year, nearly 50% of your advanced students, your high school students, are enrolled in a Cambridge course. That's every year. So over time, that means likely that every single high school student has access to at least one Cambridge course before they graduate. Over 2,000 candidates earn the Cambridge ACE diploma, which I know you're familiar with, but that's tied to Florida Bright Futures. We can do all the fun math of $35,000 a year times 2,000 students, and we get a bunch of millions, right? That's a lot of scholarship money. But what's really impressive is over 2,000 students makes up 25% of the students who earn the Cambridge ACE diploma in the North American region. That's really impressive. So all that access has largely been met with achievement as well, right? We've increased entries in exams by 28%. And 10% more candidates over time have been given access to taking an exam. But with that, you have remained in the top 5 achieving districts for large school districts in the US as well. So it's that myth of if we open this up, pass rates will plummet. That has not been what's been demonstrated here in Palm Beach County. So along with all of that, there has to be a commitment to teaching and learning. Palm Beach County leads in professional development, and they lead in the purchase of and use of Cambridge resources to support their teachers so that they can deliver that program to a diverse group of students. So with that, we are very proud to partner with Palm Beach County, and we see you as a model to the commitment for all students, for each student. Congratulations.
So quite an honor for the school district to get this award. Jonathan, you can stop sharing that. And again, really important as you work with your organizations to, and Jonathan, can you change the screen so the layout so we can see more people on the screen? Thank you. That you let people know about this, and it's going to lead into, in a little bit later this morning when we talk about Bright Futures, and we've talked about that before. And really the intention, the goal for this group is how do we accelerate and so that more students are getting access, especially our underrepresented populations where we have the disparities with our Black students in particular, to get access to this. Next, I want to shift and talk about school safety. So our data is showing an increase in particular around the students who are posting on social media acts of violence to threaten the school or someone within the school. Now the numbers last year, the first quarter, were 1. This year they're 12, but those 12 have a significant impact on the system with resources, but as well as that individual child. Most of these cases, students are posting things and doing it as a joke. However, the statute and the law does not interpret even a joke is going to face criminal charges. So first I'm going to share with you yesterday's State Board of Ed meeting, a brief discussion around this particular issue, and then share a video that I hope that you do share this video out with your respective sphere of influence within your organization to educate the parents in particular around the lifetime of consequences students can face when posting online threats. So Jonathan, if you could pull up first that One, it's a news report, the one that you had up first originally. Yeah. And welcome, Mr. Thaddeus, as well, who has joined the meeting. Yep.
Florida's Department of Education is looking to improve school safety by putting a stop to false threats. The board met today in Orlando discussing the epidemic of false threats that they say swept over not just Florida, but the country at the start of this school year. We heard about the impacts of that from Orange County Superintendent Dr. Maria Vasquez.
These threats and false reports are extremely troublesome, and they create unnecessary anxiety for our students, our parents, and our employees.
This afternoon, the board voted to change school safety requirements in order to take steps to get parents more involved in an effort to stop this from happening, specifically on the Fortify Florida suspicious activity reporting tool. Our Nicole Griffin shows us the role that students and parents are expected to play.
You could spend your weekend in a jail cell and you could figure out that I need to be a better parent.
Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood says he's fed up with false threats. He's gone so far as perp walking the kids accused of making them. He says the county's up to 562 threats this year, double what they had last year, causing problems for his agency.
Every threat can incur tens of thousands of dollars in investigative and security overtime. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. The State Board of Education is taking steps to try to stop this, voting unanimously to make changes to school safety requirements and monitoring rules in Florida.
Parents and kids didn't understand the serious nature of making a threat to a school in Florida, and so this is an effort to educate them on that.
Vice Chair Ryan Petty says many of these false reports came through the state's Fortify Florida tool, which can be used to report suspicious activity to school officials and law enforcement. In an effort to stop it, the Commissioner of Education sent out this letter to superintendents in October saying he is requiring every district school board to make available a training for parents and guardians of students that includes the consequences for making a threat or false report via Fortify Florida. Districts had until last week to make that happen.
We want to do a better job of educating students and parents about Fortify Florida and what its legitimate uses are for, which is to protect our schools.
Today's vote now made sure this education for parents will be available every school year going forward.
We take threats in Florida very seriously. They will be investigated by law enforcement, and if we find out that they're false threats, the students are still subject to prosecution.
In Orange County, Nicole Griffin, Spectrum News.
During the presentation, board members asked the Office of Safe Schools if there are more messages on the app reiterating what the consequences are. Representatives said there is now a pop-up explaining that before a tip can be made. They are also working on improving the system.
Thank you, Jonathan. And then we're gonna put up the video. So we've worked to educate all students about threats and concerning behaviors. We provided training the first 2 weeks of school. I think that's why statewide we've seen an increase of our Fortify Florida tips coming through, a dramatic increase, as well as what I mentioned earlier about posting on social media, including the fact that FBI is also watching that. A couple of our students had knocks on the door in the middle of the night from the FBI, and were arrested by making these threats. So this video, and we'll share it out with you all to please share out in your communities and with your respective stakeholders. So Jonathan, if we could pull up the video of Chief Mooney there in the middle, it's on the webpage. I sent you in the Google chat.
The number one priority for the school district of Palm Beach County is keeping our students and staff safe. Parents, we need you to help make sure your children understand that any kind of threat against the school is no joke and could result in life-altering consequences. Our school police department and our law enforcement partners thoroughly investigate any and every threat made against a school. The Fortify Florida app is available to report suspicious activity or information about a threat to school safety. Lately, there's been an increase in false tips reported through the Fortify Florida app. Submitting false tips is not only reckless, but it also results in unnecessary use of resources that are needed for actual emergencies. False reporting and fake threats result in serious consequences for students. Parents, please talk to your children about the serious consequences that can happen if they make a false threat against a school on social media or deliberately submit a false tip through Fortify Florida. Making a fake threat is a second-degree felony in Florida. That can lead to jail time and expulsion from school. This includes making any threat, false report involving a school, school personnel, or a school-sponsored activity. Unfortunately, some Palm Beach County students have been arrested and expelled for making threats this year. It's unlawful to send, post, or transmit any threat to kill or hurt another person or to conduct a mass shooting or any act of terrorism. There's no tolerance for these types of threats, even if a student is making a comment in frustration or posting it as a joke. We encourage our students to talk to trusted adults, such as a parent, teacher, or counselor, when feeling angry, frustrated, or upset, instead of using social media to vent. If you or your child sees something that requires law enforcement attention, say something. Don't repost or share threats on social media. Instead, report it to law enforcement on campus or through Fortify Florida so we can investigate. Together, we can keep our students, staff, and schools safe. Thank you.
So thank you, Jonathan. Again, it's really critically important. We're going to send this video out to you all to please share this, talk to students about this. You know, our hands are tied when it comes to the statute around this and the zero tolerance component. And I'll tell you that the majority of these threats are students are doing them as a joke. However, they're now facing a lifetime of consequences when going through the system.
Mr. Oswald?
And question in the room. Yes, Mr. Rhodes.
Just a question. When I was looking at the first report, did I see that the, excuse me, that the parents and the student have to go through, excuse me, please, have to go through a program, the parents and the student have to go through a program if they're found guilty?
So if a student is found guilty, it depends on what happens in court. Some may go through a diversion program through the system. Some may go, most will definitely be going on probation with some kind of consequences depending on the judge.
I just thought it was a great idea if the parent had to go through the program with the student, they'll be much more vigilant if that was a thing that they would put forward.
Yeah, it was interesting. The State Board of Ed, some of that conversation included potentially locking the parents up for a weekend to see. I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't think that's necessary. But to understand the challenges, to drive home that message of talking to your kids about it and stressing. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. We've got great kids making stupid mistakes and making false reports that now is going to affect them the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, once you've been have arrest. And Ms. Bergan, one second, we have in the chat, how many students from Kimberly Sparrow, how many states have similar legislation making threats or false reports leading to felony? Also, even with false reports, the accused student has a threat assessment cannot be removed from their record. Kim, do you want to add to that before?
Yes, I was just curious if we are different or more strict than other states, and I don't know if you have that information, but it would be helpful to know. And the second thing is, I wanted everyone here to be aware, even if a bully or someone else reports something that is absolutely not true, never happened, and claims that someone made a threat or did something threatening, that cannot be removed from the accused innocent student's file for the rest of their educational career. It has to accompany them if they transfer to a private school or to another state. Basically, these false reports kind of ruin the lives of the kids who are accused who have done nothing. So I just wanted you all to be aware of that in case any of the students that you all are representing or are part of your organization's clientele end up in this situation. And if your organization wants to lobby against that in their own way, or try to educate the Department of Education about the impacts of that, especially on students with disabilities and Black students, I urge you to do so.
I couldn't agree more. So absolutely. And as far as our state compared to others, my understanding, just from watching some of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Commission meetings, that we are by far, I think there's one other state, I don't remember which state, that's even close to some of the legislation that has been enacted in the state of Florida. So we definitely take a hard line based on the conversations I've seen in those meetings and reporting from the Department of Ed. In fact, the Safe Schools DOE gets many calls, it says, from other states to look at what we're doing when it comes to school safety, in particular around threat assessments. So definitely, I think we are one of the most, if not the most strict. And Mr. Pagan?
You mentioned that you're going to share the copy of that video, right?
Yes.
Could that video also be made in Spanish and Creole? With the technology we have today, that's not an issue.
Muy bien, sí, definitely.
Definitely, and because
Thank you, yes.
The other thing is, if the kids receive that and they are the one, quote unquote, in control, and they know their parents doesn't still speak English, I don't want to tell mom. I don't want to tell mom and daddy. So that's my secret, you know. So
100%. Thank you. Yes, that's
Good idea.
important.
Great idea.
And then I think it's Mr. Brown. There are better ways to handle this in the chat. I'm going to read the chat for those in the room. There are better ways to handle this. I think then, Jal, this is a pathway to destroying our children's lives. So personally, I agree with you. However, the conversation throughout the state, this DOE is taking a hard line, and you heard the sheriff from Volusia County. I don't know if I necessarily agree with his approach, but that is his approach. So again, why I'm really stressing for all of you to please, please, please take this back to your constituents. Your responsibility about being in the DDC is to educate your constituents. This is an issue. Chair Postal said, Kimberly, can you share through staff to share with our organization, especially through Florida PTA Education Advocacy Group? More through, okay. And Kimberly said yes, okay. Kimberly agreed to do that. Any other comments or questions about the school safety piece? Again, I appreciate your help getting that out. And I've taken up a lot of time, so that concludes my updates for today. Chair Postal?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Yes, yes.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Oswald. We're moving right along. This might be the quickest meeting of the entire year.
Oh no, we got more to go. Don't get
breaks.
At this time, we will maneuver right over to. Was there any other questions? I know we already answered questions. Just want to give that opportunity if there is any additional questions. Seeing none. Great presentation. I look forward to those videos so that we can share on our social medias as well as our agency's social medias. DDEC agency presentation, Kimberly, District ESC Advisory Committee.
Yes, hi. Thank you all for being here to learn more about the ESC Advisory Committee. I have been a member for about 14 years. And I have official slides, and I also added some to tell you more about the group. Both Sue and Michelle are also members. We can go to the next slide, please.
Oh, hold on.
Okay, the official purpose is to advise and assist the ESC director and the superintendent in reviewing the current status of exceptional student education, identification of strengths and weaknesses, development of goals and objectives, recommending priorities for the provision of, now this is a term of art from the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, a free and appropriate public school education. We call it FAPE, and that means that parents and families should not have to pay for the services that children need educationally at school, and that the education they receive has to be appropriate and geared towards allowing them to learn and move forward and reach their goals educationally and for their future. We disseminate exceptional student education information to parents and the public. And ESC means all students who have disabilities and are receiving services, either IEPs, individual education plans, or Section 504 accommodations and related services. Okay, next slide. Anybody can attend the meetings, and I especially urge you to tell your constituencies about this. And any parent who is worried about their child struggling, sometimes they are eligible for this kind of support and they can learn more about it at these meetings. But they have elected members who have attended a number of meetings and fulfilled different categories. We have no less than 51% of parents of children with a variety of disabilities and backgrounds. Then they have the school district staff, and they have agencies and organizations, some of which of you may be part of that, who send in members who can provide services and who are working with the same constituencies of kids with disabilities who are receiving services in the school district. Okay, next slide. These are the meeting dates. The organization meets the first Tuesdays of most months from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. and it's virtual. At the end of these slides, I give contact information where you can reach out and get the link, or you can reach out to me and I can provide you with the link. It doesn't meet, it has listed every single month, but a lot of times when there is testing and blackout dates, the group does not meet. Next slide, please.
Just a clarifying question on that. Do you have to be a member to attend the meetings?
No, I'm sorry. I thought I said that. Anybody can attend the meetings, but for voting on recommendations to the ESC department or to the district, or bylaws changes, or what we're going to talk about in the future, for voting purposes, we do not allow just regular attendees. But anybody, and I urge you all to try at least once to go to one of the meetings, and I think you'll learn a lot and maybe be able to tell your constituencies about it. Okay, next. Here are topics that the group had decided to cover this year. Inclusion of students with significant disabilities, which is an area that Sue is an expert, and she is usually one of the officers, secretary, or other roles. An update on the resource allocation formulas. There's federal funding for all students who have IEPs and other sources of resources, and how are they distributed around the district and between different areas of exceptionality, which I will get to in a moment. Accommodations for state testing, because every year the state changes what is allowed for students, whether it's extra time or being able to be in a small environment, whether they can take breaks, whether they have assistance with filling in the bubbles or that type of thing. Presentation from different service areas that might be able to help our students, such as the library and community mental health services and legal aid and other organizations that help provide advocacy. And there are new initiatives in the next school year for reading and math, which has some overlap with some of the things that we do here in the DDEC. Okay, next. But that gives you kind of an idea of what is covered. I think one of the biggest bonuses of this organization is providing information for families. When I first started participating, I had a son in first grade, and I, even though I'd gone to law school, knew nothing about rights of parents of students with disabilities. And I really had a hard time at the beginning. I was even told by staff members that they don't help kids with ADHD at all. And that wasn't true. So coming to these meetings, I learned a lot about the services that are offered, the people that you need to contact, key staff members. What are the community events? Like, we announce community events here that others might be interested in. There are a lot of disability trainings and education related community events that would help these families. And then every year, or it used to be every year, there were special events and programs outside of the regular meetings for families with speakers, panels, and service provider booths so they can learn more about what is out there. And then there's an opportunity to meet other families who have similar needs and interests. Suppose your child has dyslexia. Other families who may have older students can tell you what has worked for them and share their concerns and kind of provide support. Next slide. And as far as input from families, that's another important thing that we do. Families can come, they don't even have to be members, and mention something that they're experiencing with their child. Their child is not getting services that the parent feels that they need, or sharing good things about what is happening at their school and the school district, and offering ideas for resolving challenges that can be taken by Kevin McCormick, who is the director of ESC. Or sometimes I and some of the members have met with Keith to come up with ideas that can be suggested to the school board, or don't need to go to the school board and can be implemented. Next one. This is one area where I would love for people here to get involved in increasing the diversity of the ESC advisory. We need more members and participants who represent a wide variety of exceptionalities, which still are coming later on a different slide. Having elementary school students or pre-K, elementary, middle school, and high school students instead of kind of a concentration of one type, because you can share more services and learn more that way throughout the county and not just certain areas. As far as intersectionality, and I feel this is most important, the students who have the hardest time in our schools are ones who have variances not only with disability, but race, origin, background, LGBTQ status. As an example, I, in my job, have represented a number of students whose parents immigrated to the US, and English is not their first language, and they have trouble navigating the system. And additionally, their children are often considered the problems that they're experiencing are only due to their learning the language in their family, not speaking English at home, when they may really have disabilities. So having a variety of people, participating will allow more supports to go to the parents who are a bit marginalized. Also LGBTQ, there is a lot of intersectionality between kids who are neurodiverse and LGBTQ, and how can we support them in both of these things? And then we would like to have a variety of agencies and partners, maybe some of you who address a wide variety of the ESC needs and issues. If you're working on academics for students, maybe come here because some of your constituencies would be people who need both of these, whatever you're offering normally, except for some of the disability related organizations, because obviously you're working on the same issues. But I would love, and I'm sure everybody there would love, to have more diversity and learn more about the needs throughout our district so that they can be addressed. Okay, next slide. And then these are provided by the district, the ESC department purpose statement. They want to, as I said, have students receive appropriate educational and support services. And like the DDEC, want to increase student achievement and successful post-school outcomes. Next slide. Here's the areas of exceptionality. I wanted to share this with you because it's very wide. It's everything from autism, which is an increasing part of our population. It probably hasn't increased completely. It may be that we're identifying it more. Developmental delays and disabilities, emotional and behavioral, whether that is a mental health diagnosis or you don't have another diagnosis, but you're struggling with behavior in school. Gifted is not covered by the ESC advisory, but it is part of the ESC department. And then everything from a wheelchair user, hearing impairment, visual impairment, speech is a really large section of the population. All of these different areas services are provided for these kids. So if you know anybody who is already struggling with these things and already identified as such, please refer them both to the ESC advisory and tell them that there are supports in the district. Next slide, please. And then the district follows certain laws in addition to the ones we've learned about in DDEC. But the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act covers all students who have IEPs and need actual education that is different from what most students receive. They need specialized instruction. The Americans with Disabilities Act covers all students who have a significant impairment in a major life activity and they need assistance from the school in order to learn. And Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act covers all public entities. And for students who have disabilities, as the definition in the ADA, and do not need specialized instruction, but do need different changes in the way they receive instructions, accommodations, and related services, that is what covers them. And so the more parents can learn about these things, the better. And the more we can learn as representatives of agencies, the more we can help our constituencies. And then next slide, please. You can contact Kevin McCormick's office, and I have the phone number there, or the ESC advisory email. I have that there. And if you're interested in attending meetings, you can contact them and they will provide you with the information, the login to go to the meetings. and adapted schedule. Now, the rest of the slides I thought were informative and interesting, but we have covered a lot of this in our meetings, so I will leave these here, but I don't think it's necessary to cover all of it. Anyway, thank you for listening to me, and if you have any questions, please let me know. And I can have this handed out to people if it would be helpful.
We will share this out and send it out.
I wanted to add one other note. You notice that this is kind of not visually complicated, that it's simple typeface and not a lot of pictures. That is because a lot of people with disabilities have visual or reading impairments for various reasons. And I've been told that they find it much easier to follow this if there isn't a lot going on the page. So just wanted to share that for when you make presentations to keep that in mind. So thank you.
Good point.
Good report.
Chair Postal, want to open up to questions?
It's quite informative.
So,
Dr. Robinson.
see, Dr. Robinson, you have your hand up?
I do, thank you. So, Kimberly, I don't need a long answer. I could follow up, but do you know, has the committee had conversations about what I'm gonna call the appropriate designation of a disability? And what I mean by that is, it appears that too frequently students are given label of having a disability when they're actually reacting to some environmental issues that are not under their control. And then it's like they're labeled and they're down this path and can't get out. Has that been discussed there?
And not that I recall in meetings, but, and Sue and Michelle can correct me, but I will say, I wish all kids could have individual educational plans, because all kids need something different from a set plan that as much thought as goes into it, and I'm not trying to insult any district staff, and this applies nationwide. Every student needs something different in order to really succeed at their highest level. Unfortunately, our system makes a student be identified in some way in one of these categories in order to receive specialized education and services. I know from experience in my work that creates problems, especially in certain communities where disability is extremely a taboo subject. And when working on this within the school, they have their vocabulary that everybody tends to use, and it's very intimidating for parents, and these meetings can help explain them. But that vocabulary seems to me be more deficit based instead of accepting these other reasons that may cause problems. However, when I have a student who's experiencing in my opinion, unfair and extreme discipline, or they're really struggling, even though they may not fall into one of these categories, I do try to argue and have them evaluated to see if there's some way I can get them services, even if they're given a certain label. And I will also say that when a student goes from high school to college, it is their choice, or to the workplace or wherever they want to go. It is their choice to reveal that they had an IEP or a 504 plan and to identify themselves in whatever way they want to. The district's, the transcript is not supposed to reflect that in most cases, and it should not be evident. And I've made arguments, I think, that change things to make sure of that. So it doesn't follow them throughout life, although it does in some ways follow them within school. But for example, a student with speech impairment may reach their goals and be released from the ESE program, or there are other types of what we call disabilities that a student doesn't need the supports throughout school, something like assistance with executive functioning disorder, organizing themselves, keeping track of their materials, figuring out how to organize essays and all sorts of things. Once they learn the skills, they don't need that kind of support anymore. So it doesn't necessarily follow them through life, but I can see how it would cause problems during their education and how families may be resistant to providing those supports for their child because of how they're labeled. And I wish we could change the way we do things. And maybe here we can advocate for that, but we'd have to do it at the state and national level. That was long, I'm sorry, but.
And I see, Michelle, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, there was a recent presentation at an ESC advisory committee by the school district's administrators overseeing the multi-tiered systems of support. And so in that presentation, they did discuss not only the academic interventions that are required in increasing individual students' supports based on how they respond to evidence-based intervention for academics, but also for the emotional needs. So, looking within those tiered interventions, ESE-wise, those are required when even considering specific learning disability, emotional behavioral disabilities, or language impaired. But any student can receive multi-tiered systems of supports intervention, and that is not supposed to be a roadway to ESE. It's to meet the child's needs so that that intervention can meet their needs and hopefully be faded out so that they can be educated in their least restrictive environment. But Mr. McCormick does oversee the work within the MTSS team, and they did share out at a meeting.
I will, as an advocate outside of the system, I will just say, although every student can receive it, families sometimes need to initiate that process and know about that process in order to initiate it. It's not just automatically offered. Dr. Robinson?
Yeah, so I guess maybe my request would be that at some point in the future, we have a presentation on MTSS. But I can tell you, but Kimberly, you were kind of answering my question from a different vantage point. What I'm talking about is kids who don't actually have disabilities, right? But they get labeled, and because the issue that they're reacting to is not resolved, then these attempts to help them fail because they're, quote, treating the wrong thing, right? And then they just go down like this path, this lost path. And so, and I mean, I have a number of anecdotes that I could share to whoever later if need be, but I never could really figure out how, as a board member and now a community member, observing how to get a handle on that, because it's such a eyeball to eyeball kind of interaction and determination. So I was just wondering if it had been discussed.
Michelle is right. MTSS can address a lot of those things for students. And I would love to advocate for more of our funding that comes through the federal Department of Education, as long as it's here, and the state, to put into mental health supports that address the trauma that students sometimes experience and that interferes with their education. And also getting supports for kids who are kind of late in the process when they're starting school because they didn't have the resources, the books at home, or their parents were working 3 jobs or whatever, giving them more supports. Anyway, MTSS addresses a lot of the academic and the mental, emotional parts. But also, I wish because any student who needs it is supposed to be able to access varying mental health supports, whether coming from outside agencies or internal staff. And it is my opinion that we need more of that. And I know it's hard to do, and I know we've discussed it, but if I could advocate for anything, I would love to advocate for more of it to help our kids who don't fall into the ESC system.
This is my last interruption. MTSS is supposed to do that. The question is, how do you know?
It's on a case-by-case basis. And so if we have, I love the idea of having a presentation on that, then all of us can help our constituents, be aware of it and how to follow up on it and, how does it work?
Agreed.
And make sure that they can be informed and fully involved in the process and be able to say, hey, this isn't working from my perspective, or this has been really helpful.
Yeah, I agree. That's Mr. Rose. Did you have your hand up? Do you want to make a comment?
I would disagree with Ms. Robertson. A lot of discipline problems are being labeled, and that's one of the concerns that I have when you start dealing with special education. So we have to be careful when we look at that. And some of the time we find ourselves and our kids getting labeled, and then it's go with them through the education career as being, ESE, and they're not, So I agree with Ms. Robertson on that one.
I will add something for your awareness. There is the label, but on the other hand, students who do have disabilities have protections under Section 504, where there is a meeting and it is determined, is it related to a student's disability? Do they have the impulsiveness of ADHD? Do they have a lack of social awareness from autism? Or are they dealing with emotional issues, even if it's not falling under, if it's something that they come to school with that can be identified as a disability, even if they're not receiving services, but if their parents make the school aware, my child is suffering from anxiety and we're giving supports outside, then they are protected. And if the behavior is related to the identified, and I know I hate the word to disability, then they have protections that students who have behaviors outside of that do not. And I've represented a lot of kids in expulsion situations and high-level discipline, and it is a protective factor when it applies. I'm not saying lie about what a child has, but that's why I would, when I can and it applies, advocate for it. Because we have, as we learned earlier, very harsh outcomes for disciplinary actions, even if it was something that wasn't intentional and really isn't as big of a threat as it seems. The schools and the school staff have very limited ability to kind of take in, I know the student and they really didn't mean it or are not really that big of a problem. It's taken out of their hands, and these tough repercussions come out that may not be what you and I consider appropriate. So I'm just showing the flip side of that. And I know the stigma of having the label, but I also want as many kids to be protected as possible.
Thank you again. Important topic, and a topic that clearly I think needs continued discussion, maybe through the MTSS presentation is warranted to understand, because there's definitely pros and cons to both sides of that. And how we tease that out and for your constituents to understand, that's going to be really important. So again, as we do these presentations, we're kind of winding down a lot of these. It's critically important that you take this information back to your constituents so that they are aware of the resource. And again, Kim, great job. Thank you for this presentation. I don't see any other hands in the room. So, and I'm not sure, I think our chair was having technical issues. Our vice chair is not on, so I'm just kind of, I don't know, hope legal's not on. I'm going to quasi just move into the next item of the agenda. Ms. Simmons, do you
so,
want to introduce this next item?
I'm going to introduce Charlene Beckford. She's here to talk to us about Bright Futures, and this is really important. It kind of piggybacks on what we were just talking about the disproportionate availability of Bright Future scholarships to students. And those students can be ESE students because they're not receiving what they need in order to qualify for Bright Future scholarships, and sometimes not the resources in order to know that they do qualify for Bright Futures. So Dr. Beckford is going to give us some information on Bright Futures about student engagement, parent advocacy, resources, the student achievement curriculum, and those things that are involved in the Bright Future Scholarship Program. Dr. Beckford.
And before Dr. Beckford, sorry to interrupt. Again, this is also, we brought up before, connected to the Black Student Excellence, Ms. Simmons, correct? Mm-hmm. And the work that we're doing through that. There's a huge disparity. We talked about this before in the state when it comes to Black students and obtaining Black Futures. We just saw the recognition from Cambridge. We do know that when they get that 2,000 students, I believe it was approximately, that he quoted, received the ACE diploma. Thank you, Dr. Beckford. That results in the Bright Futures. We're going to learn more about this. But you really need to become experts in this because a lot of the constituents that you represent are some of our underrepresented populations, that this could be, it would be a life-changing situation for them. So becoming experts in this content so that Dr. Beckford is not the only expert is going to be critical for us to increase our numbers in this space. And again, currently we're double the state when it comes to Black students in Bright Futures, but it's nothing to write home about. So our resident expert, sorry to interrupt.
No problem, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Charlene Beckford. I am the high school counseling program planner in the Division of Teaching and Learning, and I'm going to discuss the Bright Future Scholarship Program this morning. So first I'll review the general requirements for the Bright Future Scholarship. I'll discuss the 4 award types. I'll show you a sample student transcript evaluation, and that's a copy of what the students receive so they can determine if they're eligible for Bright Futures or not. I will briefly just review some strategies that we can use to help students qualify for Bright Futures, and how we can inform them of that, and just briefly review the application process so that we can better support our students. So for the general requirements, the student must be a Florida resident and U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, and that status is determined by the post-secondary institution where they will attend. A student must complete the Florida financial aid application. So we always hear the term, make sure you apply for Bright Futures. The only way to do that is by completing the Florida financial aid application, and then within that application, they'll select Bright Futures, and then there are other scholarships and grants that are available that they can apply for within that application as well. The application, the application opens October 1st every year for the seniors, and seniors must apply no later than August 31st. Of course, we do not recommend that they wait that long. Current seniors can go ahead and apply for Bright Futures now. The window's open. Even if they're not eligible, we recommend that everybody applies. And then, of course, as they work towards eligibility, then they'll receive their award letter. Another general requirement is a student must have earned a Florida high school diploma or its equivalent. Students cannot have a felony charge, and they must be accepted in and enroll as a degree or certificate seeking student at an eligible Florida institution. Now, the student does not have to attend the institution immediately after graduation. They have up to 5 years to attend. But, should I say, that's only if they apply in senior year. So what I always say to the seniors is, even if they plan to move out of state, or they think they want to take a gap year, or they think they don't want to attend college, still apply for Bright Futures, because they do have 5 years after graduation after graduation to apply for reinstatement if they were initially found eligible. And that's very, very important because sometimes students move out of state and they do come home. So they can still activate their Bright Future Scholarship if they were initially found eligible. And students must be enrolled in at least 6 semester hours or the equivalent clock hours. Bright Futures also has a community service requirement. And on the next slide, I will review what these acronyms mean for the award levels. But for the highest award level, the FAS, there are 100 community service hours required, or students can submit 100 paid work hours, or a combination of 100 work hours and community service hours combined. And then as you go down, you'll see 75 community service hours or 30 community service hours. But what you'll see is consistently is if a student wants to submit paid work hours, it will need to equate to 100 paid work hours, or if they're going to do a combination of paid work hours and community service hours, it will still need to equate to 100. So for the award types, these are the 4 award types. You'll see the Florida Academic Scholarship, the Florida Medallion Scholarship, the Florida Gold Seal CAPE Scholarship, or the GSC, and the Florida Gold Seal Vocational. So the Florida Academic Scholarship, the student will need a 3.5 weighted GPA. They will need the required 16 high school course credits. So those 16 credits are the 4 English, 4 math, 3 science, 3 social studies, and 2 credits in a foreign language. And that 3.5 GPA is based only on those 16 credits. And so what you'll see is that a student's Bright Futures GPA may differ to their high school GPA that you'll see in SIS. And that's because Bright Futures only calculate the GPA based on those 16 credits. We have the community service requirement as previously discussed, and then there is a minimum college entrance exam score that's required. And for our FY25 grads, you can see the scores there for ACT, CLT, and the SAT. And this award amount is worth approximately $25,000.
Per year?
In total.
In total?
Yes. Next, we have the Florida Medallion Scholarship, and so there is a 3.0 weighted GPA, again, the 16 credit hours and a 3.0 in those 16 credits. We see the community service hours or paid work hours as previously discussed, and you'll notice here that the test score requirement is a little bit lower, and this award amount is worth approximately $20,000. However, Bright Futures have informed me that if a student attends a community college, such as Palm Beach State College, the amount will cover the full amount there if they decide to attend a community college. So this is just a table I always like to add to the presentation. It's a really nice table that you can share with families, students. It's a really nice at-a-glance that just outlines the requirements for both the academic and medallion scholarship. And you'll also notice here on this table that they have the test score requirements for the FY26 graduates as well. Okay, so there are a few other ways to qualify. So if a student is a recipient of the National Merit finalist or they're a National Merit Scholar, if they are a recipient of the National Hispanic Recognition Program, an ACE diploma recipient or an IB diploma recipient, you will see that for these students, there is no test score requirement. And so as Mr. Oswald previously mentioned, for our students that obtain their ACE diplomas, it really kind of takes away that burden of having to obtain that pretty high test score requirement. But they still have to have the GPA requirement and the community service hours. Now, if a student is an ACE curriculum recipient or an IB curriculum recipient, what this does for them is that it kind of takes away that GPA requirement, or if they're missing some of the credits, as long as they've satisfied the ACE curriculum or the IB curriculum according to the state, then they can be eligible. However, you will see that they will still need those entrance exam scores. I wanted to share a little bit about the National Hispanic Recognition Program. So to be eligible for this program, students will need to take the fall PSAT in 10th or 11th, or the spring PSAT 10 when they're in 10th grade, and they will need to score in the top 10%. Or they can earn a 3 or higher on 2 or more AP exams in the 9th and or 10th grade. They also have to have a cumulative GPA of a B+ or higher, and identify as Hispanic or Latino. So last year, we had 169 students district-wide that were recognized through the National Hispanic Program. So that meant that they did qualify for Bright Futures. And, you know, we do have programs across the district. Like I know there are, I think, 1 or 2 middle schools that offer AP Spanish in 8th grade, and we reached out to College Board and we wanted to know, even though that AP Spanish course was taken in 8th grade and not 9th or 10th, would those students still be eligible? And they said for this year, yes, they would be. So, you know, this is a great opportunity for students to be eligible for Bright Futures through this program. Next, we have the Gold Seal CAPE. I like this one. I think sometimes it gets overlooked. But there's no GPA requirement for this scholarship type. A student has to have 5 CAPE post-secondary credit hours. So for any student that takes and passes an industry certification exam, they are awarded CAPE credit hours. So for example, one exam might be worth 3 credit hours. So if they take another exam, they've met the requirement for 5 CAPE post-secondary. And those certifications do not have to be in the same area. And what I like about this scholarship award type is that there's no ACT, CLT, or SAT score requirement. So with this scholarship, it can only be applied to a career education program or a certificate program. So let's say a student is going for their AS in nursing, then they could use this scholarship towards that. So it's very specific to vocational degrees. But not only can it be used towards their AS or AAS, students can then also apply for up to 60 credit hours towards their BS or BAS degree program. It doesn't cover 100% of their tuition and fees, but it does cover a significant portion of the fees. And again, remember with this one, no GPA requirement. They just need those 5 CAPE credit hours. And then for the Gold Seal Vocational, which is the last award type I'll discuss this morning, there's a 3.0 weighted GPA requirement in their core classes. A student has to earn 3 full credits in a single CTE program. So this is a good option for our students that are in choice and career programs. They must have a 3.5 unweighted GPA in those CTE courses. And then there is a minimum requirement for the ACT, SAT, or PERT, and I'll show that on the next slide. So as you can see here, for the ACT and SAT score requirement, it is a little bit lower than what we saw for the Academic Scholar Award and the Medallion Award. And for this award type, students can also use the PERT score as well. And for the Gold Seal Vocational Program, again, it's only applied to certain programs and certain degree types and diplomas. And then you can see the award amounts there. So this one is not one that we see used a lot, but it's definitely a great option. So I wanted to briefly show you a sample student evaluation. So in speaking with Bright Futures, you know, at this time, the only way for a student to be able to see their potential award status and eligibility is for the school counselor to provide them with a hard copy. There's not a way for a student to be able to log in the system themselves and view that. I know Mr. Oswald has been working very closely with some of our programs, such as Zello. I've been knocking at the door at the state and, you know, really just letting them know that we need to be able to empower our community and our families with the opportunity to be able to access this data themselves. So they are working on it, but at this time, the only way for a student to obtain their score is if their high school counselor provides a copy. So
Can you explain to them what Zello is?
yeah, so Zello is our college and career platform. I think that's almost another presentation in and of itself. There's a lot, but all students district-wide K through 12 have access to Zello. We do have required lessons for our 9th grade students. So they go in, they do career exploration. It's kind of, like one of those interest inventories where they answer some questions about themselves, and then it will connect them to career options. Not only career options, but it connects them to colleges that may offer that career. They can watch videos on, people that are in the field. They can see a projection. Let's say they decide to stay in Palm Beach County. How much money could I make in 20 years if I stay in Palm Beach County in this career? What if I have a family of 5 and I have a mortgage? So they're actually able to input that type of data and see, what their living would be like. So there's so much to offer. There is a course planner, which we really advise that students make use of, and that ties into Bright Futures, because within that they're able to set up their academic plan for their 4 years of high school. And then they can really just monitor to see if they're on track with that. And Zello does have a feature where it does align with Bright Futures, so they can see if they're on track for Bright Futures as well. So you'll see here with this evaluation that the students receive, it's 2 pages. So this is the top half of the first page. And by now I'm sure you can see that it shows their test scores. Bright Futures will super score, so that's a great thing. So you can see all the test scores. I can see if a student has applied for Bright Futures via the FFAA. So you can see I have that circled there, and I can see the student's potential award status. At the bottom of the page, you can actually see if a student is eligible for one of the awards. So I can see with this student, they are potentially eligible for the FAS and the FMS. But they do have a couple of missing requirements for the other 2 scholarship types. And then for this student here, a second example, they have applied for the Bright Futures via the FFAA. Again, we do encourage that everybody applies, even if they're not eligible yet. So I can see this student has applied, and I can also see what's missing here. So for this student, they're not eligible for the academic or the medallion because at this time their test scores are too low. And then this is just the second page that the student will see. So you'll see all of the courses that they've taken, but then you'll see the GPA is only attached to the courses that Bright Futures are going to use for the evaluation. All right, so strategies that we can use to help students prepare and qualify for Bright Futures. So the first thing is for us to really understand the requirements, and that's what we're doing here today. We need to help our students create an academic plan, and again, they can do that through Zello. It's a requirement in 8th grade that they do that course planner, but it's working with the high school counselors to ensure that they continue to update that academic plan. Students will need to maintain a strong academic performance, and it's really important that we're able to support students with test preparation, especially for the students that do not take the ACE diploma or IB diploma track. A lot of the time, a huge barrier is just not being able to obtain that test score requirement. And so if we can support students with, just connecting them to free test prep for the SAT, ACT, and even the CLT, that can definitely increase their chances of eligibility. It's important that students regularly, or that high school counselors are regularly reviewing a student's academic grades, and not only if they're on track for graduation, because we know the high schools do that, but it's encouraging the counselors and just reminding them that a part of that conversation is, are you on track for graduation? Are you on track for Bright Futures eligibility as well? It's just making it a common part of the language. And then, of course, I always encourage students to apply early. I had a former student recently that didn't apply until May. He had a typo with his name. Bright Futures didn't catch it until end of September. By the time he got his eligibility letter really late, it really just delays the process. So there's nothing wrong with applying early as they still continue to work towards eligibility. So for the application process, the student has to log in, they create an account, and you can see the fields here that a student would need to complete. And I do have the live links here. So if a student wanted to, if you want to share the links for where they go to create their account, you can just click on those. As part of the application process, like I said, they need to do this by August 31st. I recommend it's earlier. Once they submit the application, they do need to monitor their email, and that's a big thing. We're trying to remind our seniors that you do need to check your emails regularly. You'll hear from colleges, you'll hear from FAFSA, you'll hear from Bright Futures. They need to be checking that regularly. They must, of course, complete the required coursework and GPA, as previously mentioned. And the other thing about the program eligibility that I wanted to say is with the FFAA, as I previously mentioned, there are other scholarships that are attached. So what happens is once the student completes this and they enroll in their institution, any other scholarships that they're eligible for, the FDOE will email that student and say, you're also eligible for this scholarship. You need to apply for that one as well. So I'll give an example. Attached to the FFAA, they have, I think it's a Bethune-Cookman scholarship. The only way to access that scholarship is, of course, completing this application. Once the student is enrolled in the HBCU, they'll see the student is enrolled at a HBCU. They'll be notified, you're now eligible for this additional scholarship, and then they can apply for that as well. So the FFAA is more than just Bright Futures, but there's the Jose Marti scholarship, there's a few other scholarships attached. And if you look at it like the FAFSA, right, we always say if you apply for FAFSA, it's not just about Pell Grants, but once you apply for FAFSA, any other scholarships and grants that you're eligible for, whether it's federal, state level, or institutional level, the only way that they can kind of notify you about those is if you apply for FFAA and apply for the FAFSA as well. Yep. I think I've addressed most of these points. Yes, I do. One thing.
Huge. I did not realize
Yes.
the whole FFAA.
Yeah. And I think, and it's interesting because I think we say a lot, like, apply for the FAFSA anyway, because there's other scholarships attached, but it's when you kind of word it that way. When I spoke with the state recently, because I'm still trying to get more information and, update my verbiage on this. And that was one of the things that they shared. If you look at it as, and I think I added it here, word for word, what he said. He said, an eligible student not funded, no, that's not the one. When a student applies for FFAA and FAFSA, it will evaluate them for, he said, pretty much all, if not most, state, federal, and institutional financial aid. So apply for those two, and you should be good. And that also includes scholarships that are available at the college that they attend as well. And then one thing I always, whenever I do this presentation, I always remind families and students, ask your school counselor for a copy of your Bright Futures evaluation. The state statute says that counselors must provide, or that schools must provide students in 11th or 12th grade with a copy of their evaluation once a year. What I did this year was I went into the system and I ran all of those reports for all of our current seniors. It took me half the summer, so it is a very tedious process. But I was like, there's no excuse. Here are all of your evaluations for every single senior. And so those have already been distributed to our current seniors, but the counselors are experts now on how to log into the system and to pull those individual transcripts, should a student want to see an updated one, or even if there's a 9th or 10th grader that just wants to see how close they are to eligibility. So to summarize the presentations today, just the benefits of the scholarship. Of course, it can provide financial relief, and reduce student loan debt. It will encourage students to pursue higher education, maybe for students that had not considered that route because they thought they couldn't afford it. And it certainly will open doors for students. And I like the fact that the Bright Future Scholarship provides financial support not only for those on an academic track, but even those that want to pursue a vocational education pathway as well. I think things for this committee to consider is how can we continue to increase awareness of the eligibility requirements, especially within the community and amongst parents. And how can we support students in meeting the eligibility requirements, especially when it comes to students that perhaps do not pursue the ACE diploma track and need support in obtaining the test scores. I'm not sure if we can take questions.
Okay, I think Chair Postal came back.
Yep. Yes, I am back. Thank you. Boynton High was a dead zone. That was a great presentation, Ms. Beckford. And at this time, we open the floor for any questions and discussion regarding the presentation.
So, because you're driving, I will just kind of help you out there. So I see Debbie first in line.
Hi, thank you. That was an amazing presentation and it's very informative. I look forward to studying that PowerPoint. 2 questions for you. For the National Hispanic Recognition Program, is that an automatic thing or do you have to apply for that for a student?
I believe the students do need to apply for that. I think what happened this past year was the students that were eligible, we worked with assessments and we notified those students, and then they're able to apply, I believe, but
Council user.
I'll double check on
Council user
that.
notify the student.
The council usually notifies them? Okay, yeah.
Okay, and I apologize if everyone knows the answer to this except me, but the difference between the CAPE and the CTE?
So with the CAPE, the student will need to have at least five CAPE credit hours. And the way to earn those CAPE credit hours is to pass an industry certification exam. So each industry certification exam will carry a certain amount of credit hours. So let's say, for example, like I said, if one exam is worth 2 or 3 credit hours, the student knows they just need to pass 2 certification exams, and then that would equate to at least 5 CAPE credit hours. And then I linked in the notes in this PowerPoint, I attached the list that will show each certification and how many credit hours it's worth. So if ever, you have a student that we know has sat for an exam, we can pull that up, we can see, does this particular credit that you earned or certification that you earned, will it count towards the credit hours for this award? And then for the vocational, the student they have to be in a choice program and earn at least 3 full credits in the same CTE program, in the same choice program. So that would be the difference, because with the Gold Seal CAPE, the certifications don't have to be in the same program. So let's say one's in Microsoft and the other one's in Adobe, for example. Well, I guess they're both still kind of IT, but you know what I mean. Whereas with the vocational, if a student is in the medical program, they just have to ensure that those CTE credits are in the same program, but they also have to maintain a GPA in those credits. And I know I had a student a couple of years ago that was in a program, but unfortunately, the GPA for those credits earned didn't meet the requirement. You want to find it?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, that is a tricky one. It took me a while to get my head around those two as well. That's usually the one where I call Pedro from the state. I'm like, break this down to me again. So it is a little bit complex. And I think that's why we don't see a lot of students that are eligible for that. I think it's just lack of understanding. But the more we can have these types of conversations and just spread awareness, we'll see that there's a lot of students that are eligible.
Great questions from Best Foot Forward. Sorry, Chair Postal.
Question.
Other questions? Remember, you have to be experts. We have Mr. Rhodes in the room.
Yes. My question is, and the senior citizen part of me might not understood this, but the vocational part. I noticed a disparity in the price for the regular school and the vocational school. If a student wanted to go to, let's say, a trade school, how does that work?
So as long as they meet the requirement for the award type, then they can use it at a trade school. The award amount is worth less. It is. There is a disparity there, but typically some of those trade programs do not cost as much as a 4-year degree. Okay. But remember, with the CAPE, it will cover. If a student wants to do a vocational program, and that's an AA, that's an AS, that's an, Associates of Science or a bachelor's, it still can be used towards that. And so if you have a student that wants to go into nursing or something like that, where it's considered vocational, but it's still an AS degree, they're still going to get a 4-year degree at the end of the day. And so that scholarship does cover most of it.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at the technical schools, you got North Tech, West Tech, and those kids can take advantage of this if they really have the qualifications. Just
Absolutely.
wondering.
Absolutely.
Good question. I will be holding you all accountable that you share this information. I'm going to have you sign an oath that you share this information. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. Yes, it was a great presentation, and again, I still can't absorb all of it. So I look forward to the PowerPoint and highlighting it and so forth. But I have 2 questions.
Okay.
So the first is on the presentation, and the second is something else. So the first question is, so on the scholarship for Hispanic students, is that self-identification? Do they have to be listed as Hispanic in the school district's SIS or something?
I'm not sure if it has to be in the SIS, but for sure I know it has to be in the college, in their college board account.
And that's self-identified? Like, do you have to prove you're Hispanic?
I've not heard of that. I think it's always just been how the student identifies.
Okay. Yeah. And then my other question, and this goes back to the video that Mr. Oswald showed at the beginning of the meeting with the acknowledgement from Cambridge. The gentleman made a specific statement, I believe, that there was a 10% increase in access to taking an exam. What is the difference between being enrolled in an ACE course and having access to taking an exam?
So you mean like clipping?
Yeah, so as far as I know, a student...
That's not what I understood him to say. I thought he was saying, like, this is what I read between the lines. You can take the course. That doesn't mean we're going to let you take the exam. And in order to take the exam, you have to have accomplished X, Y, Z.
So at the school level, if a student is enrolled in an ACE exam, the expectation is that, if a student is enrolled in an ACE course, the expectation is that they sit for the exam. The school has to order the exams, and they do that based on who's enrolled in the course, and it does cost the school money. So I've never heard a school, tell a student, you're in the course, you don't have to take the exam, because, the school would lose money.
And I think because they work with states throughout the country as well as internationally, that in some, Florida's unique in the fact that we receive the financial incentive at the school level, that not all states have that built into their system. So in some places, parents have to pay for accelerated courses, so not necessarily all kids will take the test, because the burden is put back on the parent and or the school without any financial incentive built into the model. Florida's unique. It's built into our FTE model.
Yeah, we don't put it back on the student. Right. But a student cannot just sit for the ACE exam if they've never sat in the course. I think that's the question. Unlike AP or, yeah, exactly.
Oh, wait, you can CLEP an AP?
You can.
Yes.
Yeah. They earn 1 credit. Good. It is good to know. And I always encourage that as we're talking about diversity and equity. I always, if you have a student that comes from, let's say they can speak Spanish, they can go ahead and take the CLEP Spanish exam. It would be of cost to them. They have to take it at the community college, but that's automatic college credit. So they are awarded 1 full credit. We enter it on the transcript as a T. It does not affect the GPA, but if they pass it, they get the college credit. It's very good to know, yeah.
So final thing, Mr. Oswald, would you just email the guy from Cambridge that made that statement and make sure that what you think he was saying is what he was saying?
Yes, we can work to get clarification. I'll have to find out who's arranged that. believe it was Partera Baruch.
Yeah, yeah, she'll have the contact. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Why will not affect the GPA?
Yeah, they're not. It's not a. They're not taking the course.
Not
It
earning
just
a grade.
They just give them credit, though. It's kind of hard to explain. And it's statute that actually says that you can do that for AP and for CLEP, but it does not include ACE in that. So,
French.
correct.
Your mic on, Mr. Rhodes? Your mic? There you go.
I said GPA has something to do with the time spent in the course also.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's tied to a grade, because you're not getting a grade, but you're earning it into the credit.
Right.
Okay, so again, everybody's going to be experts in this. It takes a lot of presentations. You got to rewatch this over and over. Dr. Bedford needs help to get the word out. This is clearly an equity issue.
We're gonna need a GPS to do that.
But it's crucial, I think, and Dr. Bedford, you've done virtual presentations for other, groups and organizations, if needed, for any of you. I think you have recorded one, right?
Not yet. I'm working with communications on that. We do have one coming up at West Tech in December. So I think that's where it's going to be. So out in the Glades, we'll have a community presentation. I'll do that in person. I'll attach a flyer to the slides. We will have Pedro Hernandez from the FLDOE actually present this virtually on December 4th. It's going to be 6 till 7 p.m. And that's open to anyone to be able to join that virtually. So you'll hear a similar presentation, but directly from the FLDOE. So I'll attach that flyer. I'll send that to you, Mr. Oswald, attach it to the slides so that please share that in the community.
When is the West Tech presentation?
I think we have a tentative date of December 9th. Just waiting for confirmation.
Mr. Rhodes, you'll sound the alarm in the Glades?
Yes, definitely.
The word out. Yeah.
Time, something?
We don't have that yet. We were just confirming if the.
Okay, you give me the time, I get the information out, okay?
We will.
Give me the time.
Okay, we will do that.
And I just want to add, the schools do these presentations as well when they do their parent nights. I know their parent nights are not always attended for whatever reasons. I mean, I'm a parent and it's hard to get out in the evenings, so I get it, but that's why we're trying many different options. So I think that virtual night is going to be a good option, and then we will have the recording that will live on the district website so parents can access that as well.
Again, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. It's a critically important topic. And as Dr. Robinson corrected me, it's not just life-changing, it's generational changing. So,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Beckford. Time to unfinished business. Are there any finished business that is to come to this spot?
there is no unfinished business that I have. We're losing you, Dr. Chair Posta. I don't know if you can hear us.
Agenda.
We're losing you.
You're losing me? Let's see, is that better?
Yes.
Can you hear me better? Okay, I shared at this time, we have one last thing on the agenda. And before we share that, I just wanted to again wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and a safe and relaxing break.
Ms. Simmons has announcements. Chair Postal, thank you for those wishes.
Thank you, Chair Postal. One more announcement. In our January meeting, we will have presentations from Caesar Vigo and Terrence Reed. You're scheduled for January. If there's an issue, if there's an issue, please email me and let me know if you are not able to present. That's all for me.
And,
Thank you, Ms. Simmons.
I too want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays since we don't meet in December.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Probably the conference. I didn't know if it was a conference room or where I was.
So we had a motion to adjourn in a second in the room.
Heard. Have a great, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Have a great break.
Likewise.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, you too. Thank you.